What was the biggest waste of money in human history? Story 1. The Darian Scheme. For those who don't know, it was Scotland's attempt to set up a colony in Panama and link the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. About 20% of Scotland's wealth was thrown at it, and it completely failed in just 2 years. So OP just casually reminded us that Scotland YOLO 20% of their GDP into Panama without understanding tropical diseases. Bro, that's like betting your life savings on a boat trip based on vibes and bad maps. Big colonial L energy. Story 2. Gotta be that person who bought the first ever tweet as an NFT, purchased for $2.9 million, now worth about $4. OP, this is why you don't spend millions on digital air. Buying the first tweet is like buying the world's most expensive sticky note and acting surprised when people just screenshot it. Congrats on owning the $4 version of regret. Story 3. The CIA putting a microphone into a cat to spy on commies only for that cat to get hit by a car. I think it was like $6 million and countless years of preparation and training only to be lost under some tires. Imagine being a taxpayer and finding out your money trained a CIA spy cat, just for it to lose a fight with a Ford Taurus. $6 million and Mr. Whiskers didn't even make it to the first mission briefing. Peak Cold War chaos. Story 4. The Great Wall of Gorgon, built by the ancient Sasanian Empire in modern-day Iran. The purpose was to protect themselves from nomadic invaders. It was constructed with 100 million man-days of labor, which is equivalent to around 300,000 workers toiling for 5 years straight. Considering the average labor cost, material expenses, and other related expenditures, the total cost of the project could have reached an astronomical sum of approximately $130 billion in today's dollars. Needless to say, it failed its intended purpose as Huns devised techniques to overcome the wall without much hassle. With a wall so expensive it basically became history's most expensive suggestion box for invaders. $130 billion in today's dollars, and the Huns just said, "Hold my beer," and went around it. Brutal. Story 5. New Zealand spent about $25 million on a flag referendum. Before it started, the public were against it, saying we would never change the flag. The government persisted anyway. 2 years later, the public voted to keep our current flag, so we did massive fucking waste of time and money for a result they should have been expecting from the very beginning. New Zealand government, we hear you don't want a new flag, so let's waste $25 million to make sure you still don't want it. OP, democracy is beautiful, but sometimes it's also extremely dumb. Story 6. Cleveland Browns paying $250 million for Deshaun Watson. Imagine giving someone $250 million guaranteed and still having to watch your team lose. Cleveland Browns, ladies and gentlemen, making bad life choices so we don't have to. Story 7. World War I, a war that nobody really wanted to fight, was supposed to be a short one, and at its end left almost every European country severely indebted or in bankruptcy. OP bringing the heat with the ultimate "we didn't think this through." A world war nobody really wanted, everyone thought would be over by Christmas. Classic, big group project, due tomorrow energy, but with more trenches. Story 8. Quantitative easing and the banking bailout. We've created a system where businesses can be too big to fail, and they can expect a bailout when they get into trouble, but when times are good, all the profits go to the shareholders. So we've privatized profit and socialized risk. This means we've effectively rigged the game for capitalism, making a system where market forces are no longer fully in play, and creating zombie companies that should have folded a long time ago. Ah yes, privatize the profits, socialize the losses. OP just described capitalism's secret sauce. Heads they win, tails we pay taxes, zombie companies everywhere, like The Walking Dead. Story 9. King Louis IX spent something like the entire GDP worth of France on religious relics, such as a piece of the True Cross. A sliver of wood said to have been from the cross that Jesus was crucified on. It doesn't take a genius to see it was a fake now. King Louis out here playing Pokemon Go with fake relics. Gotta catch 'em all, even if it bankrupts France. OP, I bet someone sold him a holy toenail too. Medieval eBay was wild. Story 10, bailing out billion-dollar companies during COVID like Delta Airlines that charges me $50 to bring a bag on an airplane instead of, training new doctors or fast-tracking those already in med school or paying off their student loan debt. OP is absolutely right. We bailed out airlines just so they could continue charging us $50 to breathe slightly heavier. Delta got my tax dollars and my carry-on fee. Incredible. Story 11. Panama Canal first attempt. The French didn't understand what they were getting themselves into, and death from mosquitoes killed off too many that the project had to be abandoned. French engineers walked into Panama like, "We got this," and Mother Nature said, "Hold my malaria." OP, this was the most expensive group project left unfinished because the group literally died. Story 12. When COVID was in full swing and the entire trading market crashed, then the Federal Reserve tried to stimulate and save our overlord corporate scum by injecting $3 trillion into the stock market just for it to immediately crash again like 2 minutes later. Imagine injecting $3 trillion into Wall Street just for the market to trip on a Lego 2 minutes later. OP, it's giving CPR to a dead stock chart energy. Story 13. The Iraq War, 2003 to 2011. Regarding the cost, estimates vary, but it's in the trillions of dollars, with some sources suggesting around $3 trillion when including long-term health care for veterans, interest on borrowed money, trillions spent, lives lost, and we still didn't find the WMDs. OP, this war was basically the world's most expensive episode of Mythbusters, except nobody laughed at the end. Story 14, not the dumbest, but a personal favorite of mine. The US military spent hundreds of millions developing the XM29 Rifle. It was basically a grenade launcher with some extra bells and whistles. They wanted it to replace the M16, so every grunt would be carrying one. In a shockingly unshocking turn of events, that's a freaking war crime. $300 million later, and a single Google search could have prevented it. OP. Imagine spending hundreds of millions inventing a gun so crazy it's basically a war crime to carry it. All that tech, and a single intern Googling rules of war could have saved them $300 million. Story 15. Everyone here has better answers, but I've got to mention Twitter. What an absolutely idiotic way to buy a company. Acquire because someone told you can't, fire 80% of the staff, abolish the branding completely, remove mod support, offer worthless utilities that used to be free as part of a premium service, then force push notifications to every single user that are really just your personal tweets. And when people still won't listen to you masquerade as an anonymous user on your own app company, artificially inflate your own follower count, and be your own biggest supporter. OP perfectly described Twitter's villain arc. Imagine buying a $44 billion company out of spite, then speed running it into a MySpace cosplay. Peak rich guy with no real friends energy. Story 16. Capitalist agriculture and food distribution. Like every second potato is thrown away, milk is overproduced and thrown away, cowhides are destroyed rather than tanned for leather to keep leather prices stable, insecticides and herbicides to maintain massive monocrops killing pollinators and low-key poisoning us. Instead of higher total mass, yield less intensive multi-cropping, like keeping pigs on an apple orchard to eat the fallen apples, where the apple-eating beetles lay their eggs to kill off a pest instead of spraying. Oh no. But instead, we feed the pigs unsold grocery store stuff. All ground up. The packaging left on, rather than paying people to take it off first. So much for labor efficiency. Thanks, capitalist goons. Restaurants are not sending their best either. It's waste, cruelty, and exploitation all around the chain, and the cost is incalculably high. OP came in swinging. Capitalist agriculture is basically destroy everything for slightly cheaper potatoes. Meanwhile, cows are like, "You killed me for nothing?" Story 17. USA War on Terrorism. It took 20 years, thousands of dead U.S. soldiers, about $4 trillion, and 4 USA presidents to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. 20 years, $4 trillion, and we ended up where we started, except tired and broke. OP, this is the world's worst subscription service. No refunds, no customer support. Story 18. The war on drugs has to be up there. It's a global operation over many decades and has involved pretty much every police and military force on the planet in some way. Illegal drugs are more popular than ever, and cartels have never been as powerful. The UN admits that it has been a failure, but it's still going strong. You can estimate the costs for a single country, but arriving at a number for the entire world would be very difficult. OP nailed it. The war on drugs. Billions spent, nothing fixed, cartels winning Oscars now. It's like paying for a Netflix series where the villain wins every season, forever.